Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. My name's GBay99. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Today, we are back with another League of Legends video. You guys probably remember this series I did not too long ago, Champion Reviews, where we would take a look at champions, not just how good they are objectively in whatever patch we're reviewing them in. You know, it wouldn't just be another talking about whether they're a top pick or not type of video, but rather we take a look at how well designed their kit is, how well they seem to work as a champion, and analyzing some of their mechanics in depth. I put that series on hiatus for a little while, but today we're making another episode, this time on Kled. Kled is probably one of the more interesting champions released lately, which is saying a lot considering Riot's champion design team has been pretty creative with releases as of late. I've been playing him a fair amount myself over these past couple of days, and although it's certainly early to say something like this, he may be one of my new favorite champions, maybe even my favorite champion outside of Aurelia. So today I want to take a little bit of time to talk to you guys about what it is that makes Kled so special and what it is I find so enthralling about him. When you take a look at most top laners, a lot of the time you can loosely put them into one of two categories. There are top laners who are fighters, the ones who want to have small skirmishes, the duelists, the 1v1ers and split pushers, who are meant to be semi-carry champions a lot of the time, and then you have top laners who have one big job in team fights, where these are most often the tanks. Champions like Gnar, for instance, would fit into the latter category. Even if Gnar isn't a strict tank himself and can put out quite a bit of damage, he can make or break a team fight with his ultimate, and that's a huge part of why you would pick him for a team composition. He can still do other stuff, especially right now. He's pretty strong with his Frozen Mallet build. He can harass in lane, he can put out other stuns and slows and whatnot, but the biggest reason you pick Gnar top lane is because he has an ultimate that can be a game changer if you get it off on multiple enemies in a team fight. An even better example of what I'm talking about would probably be someone like Malphite. Malphite has some great stuff in his kit. He has an auto attack speed slow, a normal slow with his Q, and a ton of tankiness, but the big reason you pick him is for his ultimate, a great initiation. A lot of tanks fill this kind of role where they have one job, whether that be initiation or crowd control or just tanking damage or maybe a little bit of all three. But for a lot of these champions, they want to focus on their one job and they only typically think about it in an end game perspective or maybe a mid game perspective. Like, this isn't to oversimplify these champions or anything, but for a lot of these tanks, they only really want to get through the laning phase so they can make it to their end game fantasy. They can do certain things, like a Malphite can TP gank with his ultimate at level 6, and that's not to say they have no responsibilities in the earlier mid game, but they don't really think about it as much as they want to focus on getting that perfect ultimate off or just tank all the damage in team fights late game. The reason I bring this up is because I always prefer the first category of champions, the duelists who want to fight. These are your Aurelias, your Jaxes, your Rivens, or even Renekton's, and even though Kled has an amazing initiation with his ultimate that gives his team a ton of movement speed and a great way to start a fight, I'd still say he's a duelist at heart like all these other champions, and I think he's an incredible breath of fresh air to the duelist style champion in League of Legends. You see, top lane dueling can get a little formulaic after a while. Like, imagine a Vladimir fighting an Aurelia. The Vladimir does their best to not get stunned and heal as much as they can, while Aurelia tries to put out damage and bait him into using his pool, going for a kill after he has no escape. But at the end of the day, when each person only is really worrying about 4 abilities and maybe a summoner spell, the fight and the trading can get somewhat simple after a while, right? After you do this matchup hundreds of times, thousands even, you know what each player is trying to do and what they physically can do with their 4 simple abilities. Sometimes it's a little more complicated if you have a lane that has like a Jace or something where you have more than just 4 spells, but you get the point, right? I mean, things can get predictable after a while when you focus more on min-maxing the matchup that you already know how to play, rather than thinking of how it is you're really fighting or trying to change your playstyle at all. The thing I like so much about Kled is how his Mount Skarl completely changes the tone of a fight depending on how both players are playing. So for those of you who don't know how this works, when Kled is fighting, he ultimately has 2 separate health pools, one for himself and one for Skarl. Once Skarl's health is depleted, he runs away. Kled loses 2 abilities, one of them changes, and when he builds up enough courage in his resource bar by attacking opponents, Skarl will come back with 70% of its health. So when you're playing Kled, this outside factor completely changes every matchup in a way that both him and his opponent can exploit. For example, Kled is relatively weak when he doesn't have Skarl, so an opponent can just poke him down until he loses him and completely handicap him in lane, forcing him to recall basically. While on the flip side, if Kled is the one being aggressive and looking for an initiation, sometimes you get dismounted at the exact right time where you have all your cooldowns active and you probably wouldn't be able to kill your opponent, but then you can use your new Q that you got with the dismount and finish off a kill. What might be even more interesting than just the different stances that he has is the actual act of mounting and dismounting. When you get dismounted, you have a few seconds of invulnerability that you can use pretty well to dodge damage or spells. You can use it to lose tower aggro, or I even had this one game when I was playing against a Yasuo on the enemy team who used his third Q on me almost every time. It would end up dismounting me, but he'd never be able to knock me up with his ultimate because I had those few seconds of invulnerability. Even more exciting than that, though, is when you remount. When Skarl comes back to you, he only has 70% of his health, but you gain that health instantly. I can't tell you how many times, even just in the short number of games I've played with him, I was near death. My opponents are chasing me down trying to get a kill. I maybe turn on them or use my Q or something to get 100 courage. Skarl comes back. I suddenly go from being about to die to able to chase my opponent down, kill them, and make them rage in all chat, since I jumped from a sliver of health to more than half. This also encourages Kled to pretty much fight to the death when he's dismounted, since fighting enemy champions gets you a ton of courage compared to minions or towers, and you can remount really quickly in a lot of situations. It's really funny. It fits his lore pretty well, as I understand, and it's something that I honestly just love to do regardless of who I'm playing, fight to the death. Kled also has a lot of traditional design in his kit that I think does a really nice job of balancing him out. I mean, he has a lot of chase potential with his E and Q, which are rewarded well when he lands them and seem relatively balanced for a champion who has no mana to worry about. They let him chase his opponents down and stick really well onto a target, but they still provide a way for the enemy to just dodge the skill shots and run away, since you can't really do too much if you fail to land them. He has the kind of stick potential for a champion like Fiora, so he can be a great duelist while not having too much CC or anything to have an overloaded kit as well. But ultimately, I really like playing him because he's a breath of fresh air, as I said. This isn't to suggest that I've gotten bored of top lane over the years or that I'm tired of playing League or anything, but after playing for almost 6 years now nearly every day, you can't help but learn how to expect certain things are going to go in game, with League being a game that handicaps most champions to 4 abilities, 2 summoner spells, and whatever items you choose to buy. Matchups can grind down to inches and split-second decisions that decide the victor in trades in lane. Kled interests me as a character since he's so fun in bringing new life to so many matchups that can turn on a dime depending how both you and your opponent play, and all these new factors he brings to the game. It gives you a lot to think about as you're playing him, and it's always fun to play a champion who encourages both a deep level of thought while still maintaining that easy to pick up style that League is known for. Anyway though, I hope you all enjoyed watching today's video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all soon, but until next time, good luck in solo queue and have a wonderful day.